I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was foggy, like I'd been dragged out of deep water and forced to breathe too fast. I blinked a few times, trying to focus. The cold, damp floor of the military base was beneath me, but the room felt different. Too quiet. The constant hum from the machine was gone, and the black-eyed child was nowhere to be seen. Only the sound of my own breathing filled the space. I slowly sat up, my joints aching. Amelia was next to me, also stirring, as if she had just woken up from the same nightmare. Her eyes were clouded with confusion, and she rubbed her forehead like she was fighting off a headache. "What the hell happened?" she muttered, still groggy. She looked as lost as I felt, and that wasn't a good sign. Flashes of memory started coming back. The child, the room shaking, the lights flickering. Then, nothing. It was like someone had pulled the plug on reality. "I don't know," I replied, my own head throbbing. "The last thing I remember is the hum, the kid." Then it all went dark. Amelia struggled to her feet, staggering slightly before finding her balance. She glanced around, her expression showing the same unease that was gnawing at me. Everything looked the same: the cracked walls, the dusty floor, the old machines. But something felt off. A presence, maybe. Something that didn't belong. "We need to get out of here," she said, her voice firm but edged with anxiety. Something's seriously wrong. I didn't need convincing. The base felt more hostile now that the silence had returned. The hum, which had been an annoying constant, now felt like a barrier had dropped. Whatever it had been holding back was free now. I grabbed my flashlight, thankfully still working, and we headed out of the base, moving fast but cautiously. The air outside hit me like a slap. It was heavy, thick with something I couldn't name. The wind blowing in from the sea was colder than before, and the clouds overhead seemed to press down on the earth. The lights on the horizon, which had been flickering weakly before, were now completely gone. There was no sound. Not even the ocean's waves broke the eerie silence. "What do you think happened in there?" I asked, more to fill the silence than to expect a real answer. Amelia shook her head, still trying to piece together the fragments of memory. "I don't know, but whatever it was, it felt like we were pulled out of time or out of reality. That wasn't just a blackout. Something hit us, but there are no marks, no signs. Nothing's changed, but everything's changed." The word experiment echoed in my mind like a bad refrain. Whatever the government had been messing with here, it was far worse than I'd imagined. They had meddled with forces they didn't understand, and now we were caught in the aftermath. The lights in the sky, the black-eyed children. It was all part of something bigger, something Carson Wells and the rest of the town didn't fully grasp. We walked in silence, the sound of our footsteps echoing louder than they should have. Every time I glanced over my shoulder, I felt like someone, or something, was following us. But there was nothing, only the empty streets. The weight of being watched was stronger than ever, like a pair of invisible eyes locked onto us. When we finally saw the town again, it felt like something inside me snapped. Not relief, just the realization that the worst was yet to come. Amelia stopped and looked at me, her expression grim. "This isn't going to stop, is it? Whatever started, it's just the beginning." I didn't need to answer. We both knew she was right. The lights might have disappeared and the hum might be gone, but we weren't out of the woods, far from it. We kept walking, but the sense that something was coming stayed with us, and I had the sinking feeling that whatever we'd done back in that base had set something unstoppable into motion. As soon as we got back to town, the first face I saw was Carson Wells. He was waiting, leaning against a lamppost, the same tense posture I'd seen back at the station. But this time, something was different. His face wasn't just trying to maintain order anymore. He looked like a man about to crack. His breath came in short bursts, and his hands trembled slightly. "I warned you," he said, his voice a mix of anger and fear. His gun was visible at his hip, but he wasn't reaching for it. Carson looked desperate. He wasn't afraid of us. He was afraid of something much bigger, something he couldn't control. "You said a lot of things, Carson," I replied, lighting a cigarette to steady my own nerves. "But none of it made sense. Maybe it's time you start telling the truth." Carson looked around, as if someone might hear us. The fear in his eyes was almost tangible, like he was one step away from admitting something terrible. I knew he was close to breaking. The silence between us felt heavy, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down. "You don't understand," he said, his voice cracking at the edges. I really tried to keep things under control. But it's bigger than any of us. They promised this wouldn't happen." I stepped closer, my patience wearing thin. "Promised what, Carson? What the hell are you talking about?" Carson took a deep breath, like he was about to confess to some unspeakable crime. His eyes met mine, and I could see the internal battle he was fighting. He wanted to tell me, but he knew that speaking the truth would destroy him. Finally, he gave in. When the light started showing up and the kids started disappearing, the government came in. They said it was just an anomaly, something they were monitoring, promised the town would be safe, that they were in control. But it's not human, and they knew what was buried here. Amelia, standing beside me, stepped forward, her face full of intensity. "Buried? What are you talking about?" Carson shook his head, as if struggling to find the right words. But then he looked directly at her and said the words that sent chills through me. "They found something in the ocean. It's not from this world. They call it a ship, or what's left of one. It was dormant, buried, and they used the base to try to reactivate it. Electromagnetic waves, experiments. But something went wrong. The lights started showing up, and the kids started vanishing." My stomach tightened. The connection I had been trying to piece together finally made sense. The black-eyed children, the lights, the government. It all pointed to this buried ship. They had tried to control something they didn't understand, and now everything was falling apart. "And the children?" I asked, trying to stay calm despite the mounting dread. "What do they have to do with this?" Carson's gaze dropped, his guilt pouring out. They're not kids anymore. Something took them. They're not here to live. They're here to deliver a message for what's coming." Amelia and I exchanged a quick glance. The truth was worse than we'd imagined. The black-eyed children weren't just victims. They were part of this, part of whatever the government had awakened. They weren't here to be saved. They were here to prepare the way. "And you?" I asked, my voice low. "What's your role in all this?" Carson stepped back, his hands trembling visibly now. His breathing was shallow, panicked. I just followed orders. They promised me my family would be safe. But now there's no stopping it." Before I could press him further, a low metallic sound echoed through the street. Someone was coming. Amelia looked at me, her eyes wide with realization. "We need to go, now," she whispered. I didn't argue. Whatever was coming, it was moving fast, and staying here was no longer an option. We ran, but as we turned the corner, I knew this wasn't over. The truth was out, but the danger was just beginning. Whatever Carson and the government had unleashed was no longer in their control, and now it was hunting us. The lighthouse stood like a lone sentinel at the edge of the cliff, its walls battered by time and the relentless sea wind. It used to be a beacon for sailors, but now it seemed more like a silent witness to something dark. Amelia couldn't take her eyes off it, as if she knew this place held the secrets we were after. "Why the lighthouse?" I asked, walking beside her, feeling the cold wind whip across my face. "Is there something you're not telling me?" Amelia glanced at me, her lips pressed into a tight line before she spoke. "My brother. He disappeared a few years ago. Before that, he mentioned the lighthouse. He talked about an underground facility used for experiments. I don't know if he understood what was really happening, but he believed the lighthouse was connected to the lights and the disappearances." I tensed. Amelia was more involved than I had realized. If her brother was right, this lighthouse was more than just an old structure by the sea. It was the key to everything. As we approached, the sound of waves crashing against the rocks below grew louder, a constant roar that blended with the wind. The lighthouse loomed over us, its ancient stone walls almost daring us to come closer. The windows were dark, and the front door was locked, just as I'd expected. "Let's go around," I said, already looking for another way in. It didn't take long to find a side door, rusted at the hinges. With a firm push, it creaked open, groaning in protest. We stepped inside and were greeted by the damp, musty smell of a place long forgotten. The lighthouse had clearly been abandoned for years, but the eerie stillness made it feel like something was waiting for us. Amelia led the way, her footsteps quiet but purposeful. We descended a narrow staircase, the air growing colder with each step, until we reached what looked like a maintenance room. The room was cluttered with old tools and boxes, all coated in dust. It seemed harmless, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. In the corner, something caught my eye. An iron ladder, hidden behind a pile of crates, leading down into the darkness. "This is what my brother was talking about," Amelia whispered, her voice tight with a mix of fear and resolve. An underground passage. She was right. None of this had been in the official reports or documents about the lighthouse. This was something they had kept hidden. We climbed down the ladder, our footsteps echoing off the metal rungs. The descent felt endless, like we were being pulled deeper into the earth. Finally, we reached a long, dark hallway that led to a larger room, with metal walls that contrasted sharply with the old stone of the lighthouse. The room was old, but what we found inside was unexpected. In the center, a large table was covered with papers, maps, and diagrams. Old monitoring equipment sat dormant, but what grabbed my attention was the map spread out in the middle. It was a detailed map of the town's coastline, marked with several points of interest. One spot, circled in red, was a few miles off the coast, exactly where Carson had said the ship was buried. The weight of what we had discovered settled over me like a heavy blanket. "They were tracking activity under the ocean," Amelia said, picking up one of the documents. "It's all connected to the ship, the government, the experiments, the kids. It's all part of a bigger plan." I looked closer at the map. The red circle marked a specific area in the ocean, with notes scribbled beside it about electromagnetic waves and atmospheric phenomena. They hadn't just found a ship. They were trying to reawaken alien technology. And the kids, maybe they were the result of it. "This isn't just a ship," I muttered, piecing it together. They were trying to reactivate something alien, and the children, they're part of it. Amelia nodded slowly, her eyes still on the map. "That's why they're here. The kids aren't just victims. They've been altered by this technology. They're the link between what's buried and what's coming." A sudden noise interrupted us. A heavy metallic clanging echoed down the hallway. Something was moving, something big. I looked at Amelia, her face pale with realization. "We have to get out of here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't argue. Whatever was down here with us, it was getting closer. We had uncovered too much, and now the consequences were coming. We left the lighthouse behind, but the questions followed us like shadows. The documents and the map, showing the buried ship's location off the coast, left a heavy feeling in my gut. Amelia walked silently beside me, lost in her own thoughts. We were starting to connect the pieces, but each new discovery made the situation more terrifying. The cold wind picked up as we walked down the narrow path toward town. The darkness felt thicker now, like something was closing in on us. The lighthouse, once a symbol of safety for sailors, now felt like a distant nightmare. Whatever secrets we had uncovered there, they weren't going to stay hidden for long. "What do you think the children really are, Morgan?" Amelia asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was low, filled with fear and curiosity. "Do you think they were created by the ship?" I considered her question, unsure of the answer. If what Carson said is true, those kids aren't human anymore. They've been touched by whatever's buried down there, or maybe changed by the government's experiments. I don't know if they were created by the ship, or if something inside them was awakened, but one thing's for sure. They're not here by accident. Amelia stopped walking and turned to face me. Her eyes were wide, full of a realization she didn't want to admit. "Do you think they're messengers, here to warn us, or to serve whatever's coming?" I wanted to believe they were just victims, that somehow we could save them. But I knew that wasn't the truth. They weren't just here by chance. They were part of something much bigger. "I think they're here to prepare the way for something that's coming, and it's not good." The silence returned as we continued walking. The town was just ahead, but instead of relief, it felt like we were walking into a trap. That feeling of being watched never left me. In fact, it was growing stronger. It felt like something was following us, always just out of sight, waiting for the right moment. When we finally reached the town, it was even more deserted than before. The streets were empty, the houses dark, and the few lights that still worked flickered weakly, casting long, eerie shadows. It was as if the entire town had gone into hiding. Maybe they knew more than they were letting on. "What now, Morgan?" Amelia asked, her voice hesitant. She knew as well as I did that we were running out of time. "We need to go back to the base," I said, my eyes scanning the empty streets. "Whatever they were trying to control, it's tied to that device. If we can shut it down, maybe we can stop this before it gets worse. But we're taking a risk." She frowned. What kind of risk? I looked at her, the weight of the decision heavy on my mind. If we turn off the device, whatever's buried down there might be set free. The government was using it to keep something in check. If we cut the power, we might lose the only control they had. Amelia went quiet, processing my words. We both knew the device was at the center of everything. It was the only thing keeping the ship and the alien technology dormant. But turning it off could have unpredictable consequences. We could stop the disappearances, or we could unleash something far worse. If we do nothing, more kids will vanish, she said firmly. And if that ship wakes up completely, we're all screwed. We have to try. I took a deep breath, knowing she was right. There was too much at stake to walk away. Shutting down the device was our only chance. But the decision felt like playing with fire, and deep down, I knew we were going in blind. Okay, I muttered, lighting a cigarette to calm my nerves. We go back to the base, and we shut it down. As we headed toward the base, the familiar hum returned, growing louder with each step. The lights in the sky, which had flickered on the horizon earlier, were back, brighter and more intense. The sense that something was moving up there was undeniable. It was like the air itself was buzzing with energy. Amelia stopped and looked up, her face pale. It's starting again. I didn't need to look. I could feel it. Whatever was happening, we didn't have much time. We pushed forward, knowing that if we didn't stop it soon, the entire town, maybe more, would pay the price. We reached the base, and the hum was now deafening, vibrating through the ground beneath our feet. The lights in the sky pulsed like a heartbeat, casting a strange glow over the buildings. Everything felt alive, like the whole place was waking up. Amelia turned to me, her expression determined. This is it. We either stop this now, or we lose everything. I nodded, my hand tightening around the flashlight. The moment of truth was here, and whatever we were about to face, there was no turning back. The military base loomed ahead, more threatening than ever. The hum, once just a faint presence, was now deafening, vibrating through my bones. The lights in the sky pulsed with unsettling intensity, and the air felt charged, like the whole atmosphere was about to break. Amelia and I ran toward the entrance, urgency driving us. The hum was louder than ever, and the lights, no longer flickering but glowing steadily, seemed to be watching us. Something was about to happen, and we were out of time. Inside the base, we hurried through the corridors, heading straight for the underground chamber where we'd first found the device. The room was bathed in an unnatural glow, the machine at its center humming with life. The noise was overwhelming, but what was even more disturbing was how alive the machine seemed now. Lights flickered across its surface, and the whole structure vibrated with energy. "What now?" Amelia asked, her voice barely audible over the hum. I moved closer to the device. There was no obvious switch, no clear way to turn it off. This was more than just a machine. The government had activated it, but they clearly hadn't understood what they were dealing with. They had been trying to control something far beyond their comprehension. "If we shut this down, we might stop the ship from fully waking up," I said, studying the control panel. "But if we turn it off, we could also release whatever it's been holding back." Amelia stepped closer, her eyes fixed on the machine. "We can't just do nothing, Morgan. More kids will disappear, and who knows what will happen if that ship fully awakens. We have to try. I nodded, knowing she was right. Doing nothing wasn't an option. We were on the brink of something catastrophic, and this device was at the heart of it. Whatever happened, we had to take the risk. I looked over the controls, trying to make sense of them. My hands moved instinctively, pressing buttons, pulling levers. The hum grew louder, the vibrations stronger, but then, with a final pull, the machine began to power down. The lights flickered and dimmed, and the hum slowly faded until there was only silence. For a moment, I thought we had succeeded, but then the hum returned, louder than before. The walls trembled, and the lights on the machine flared back to life. Whatever we had done, it hadn't shut the machine off. It had triggered something else. Amelia looked at me, her face pale with fear. "What's happening?" I stepped back, my heart pounding. "I think we just released whatever they were trying to control." The hum turned into a roar, and the lights outside the base began to flicker wildly. The ground beneath us shook, and the air felt thick, heavy, like something was pressing down on us, something massive. "We need to get out of here now," Amelia shouted, her voice barely audible over the noise. We ran toward the exit, but as we reached the surface, the sky erupted with light. The lights in the sky, once distant and flickering, were now blazing, swirling in geometric patterns above the base. The air buzzed with energy, and I could feel it vibrating through me, pulling me toward the source. Amelia grabbed my arm, dragging me back toward the road. "We need to keep moving!" I didn't argue. Whatever was happening, it wasn't something we could stop now. We had set something free, and the lights in the sky were no longer just lights. There was something far more dangerous, something that had been waiting for this moment. As we ran, I glanced back at the base. The entire structure was glowing now, pulsing with energy that shot up into the sky like a beacon. The lights in the sky responded, swirling faster, creating a vortex of light and sound that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. "What do we do now?" Amelia asked, her voice filled with desperation. I didn't have an answer. The truth was, we were out of options. Whatever we had set in motion, there was no stopping it now. The black-eyed children, the lights, the buried ship. It was all part of something bigger, something beyond our control. "We wait," I said, my voice hollow. "We wait for whatever's coming." Back in my apartment, the silence was unbearable. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. Sitting in my worn chair, cigarette in hand, and a glass of whiskey at my side, I tried to make sense of the puzzle pieces that still didn't fit. The lights in the sky had vanished, and the machine at the base was powered down, but a dark sense still lingered. Amelia had left early that morning, taking the documents and evidence we had found. She had a story to tell, one that might shake everything up. But deep down, I knew the full truth would never come to light. People wouldn't believe it, and those who did would be silenced. I took a slow drag of my cigarette, watching the smoke curl up toward the ceiling. It was hard not to think about Vanessa, my missing daughter. She was the reason I kept diving into unsolved mysteries like this, chasing ghosts. I'd hoped that maybe, somehow, this case would give me a lead. But no matter how much I wanted it to, nothing had pointed back to her. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the empty streets below. The city was quiet, but it didn't feel safe. The feeling of being watched still clung to me. The events at the base were over, but the danger wasn't gone. The lights in the sky were gone, for now, but I knew this was far from finished. As my eyes scanned the street, something caught my attention. Standing beneath the dim glow of a street lamp was a small figure, a child. I blinked, hoping it was just my mind playing tricks, but when I looked again, the child was still there, staring at me, her eyes pitch black. A cold chill crept down my spine. The child didn't move, didn't speak. She just stood there, watching me. Those black eyes were a reminder of the truth I couldn't escape. The danger was still out there, and whatever we had uncovered was far from over. We had only scratched the surface. I quickly pulled the curtain shut, trying to block out the image. I crushed my cigarette in the ashtray, my mind racing. There would be no peace, no real answers. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I knew one thing for certain. When the lights in the sky came back, and I knew they would, I'd be ready to face whatever was coming.